Percent, using percent proportion. With me, Catherine. Using proportions to solve percent problems. You got it. We're going to be doing some applications. But first, we need to review. A fraction describes a part of a whole using math symbols. For instance, in this circle, 2 out of the 8 are shaded. So we could say 2/8 are shaded. In this circle, there are 6 that are not shaded. So we could write 6 out of 8 are not shaded. For proportions, we need to figure out when two fractions are equal or equivalent. If you remember, what we did was we cross-multiplied. If the numbers are not equal, then the fractions are not equal also. That means they're not equivalent. We will put these two ideas together to solve a percent problem using proportions. First, let's create a proportion to solve percent problems. A part is to a whole as a percent is to 100. What? Let me show you a little bit easier. Part is to a whole as percent is to 100. And the percent is always written over 100. It's part of our formula. So much easier. Let's look at this. We have 1/2 that's shaded. Well, that's 50%. Let me show you how a part over whole equals percent over 100. What percent of the circle is shaded? Well, we kind of know that, right? But this is going to help you understand it a little better. So part is 1. There's one part of 2 that's shaded. There are 2 whole parts. That's the same as saying percent, which is 50, drop the percent sign, over 100. 1/2 is the same thing as 50 over 100. That's how a percent proportion works. Let's look at our first example. There are 48 students in the student lounge. Using the blood statistic, how many have type O blood? Round up to the nearest person. Let's remember our formula and fill in what we know. We know that there are 48 students in the lounge. And if we look at our blood statistic, 44% of them are type O blood. We're trying to find the part out of 48 that have O type blood. So we're going to put B there for blood. We're going to cross multiply. Yes, B times 100 equals 48 times 44. B times 100 equals 2,112. Remember, we want to get the B by itself. We want to get the variable by itself. So we always divide by whatever number's hooked to it. In this case, it's 100. But if we do it to one side, we have to do it to the other side. It turns out that B equals 21.12. We're going to round up to the nearest person. That means there are approximately 22 students in the student lounge with O-type blood. Now you're probably thinking, but Catherine, B is 21.12. But let's think about this. Can we have 0.12 of a person? I mean, we don't see people walking around with just fingers or toes or whatever, right? So we round up to the next person. This one you're going to try. You're going to pause the video, figure out the answer, and then press play to check. There are 48 students in the student lounge. Using the blood statistic, how many have type AB blood? Round up to the nearest person. Well, let's fill in what we know first. And here's our formula. It's super important to memorize the formula. I can't even tell you. Super important. Well, we know there are 48 students in the lounge. And according to the statistic, 4% have AB blood. We want to figure out how many out of the 48 students have AB blood. So we're going to put a B in the part. Cross, multiply, B times 100 equals 48 times 4. We have B times 100 equals 192. Remember, we want to get B by itself. So we're going to divide by whatever is hooked to the B. In this case, it's 100. If I divide by 100 on one side, I have to divide by 100 on the other side. It turns out that B equals 1.92. There are approximately 2 students in the student lounge with AB type blood. Once again, 1.92. Well, that's my answer, but it doesn't make sense. So 0.92 of a person, that doesn't make sense. So we're going to say 2 people. Here's another one for you to try. You're going to pause the lesson, figure out the answer, and then press play to check. All right, let's see how you did. I put 85 chocolate chip dough balls in my freezer to bake for a fundraiser next week. The day before the sale, I found only 78 dough balls. What? What percent did the kids eat? First, we need to figure out how many were eaten. 85 minus 78 is 7. So the kids ate 7. But the question asks, what percent did the kids eat? That's when we're going to fill out our formula. Part is the same as those that were eaten. The part that was eaten is 7. So the kids ate 7 of them. There were 85, I know for sure, in the freezer. I'm trying to find out what percent they ate. That's going to be our D. D is the percent of dough they ate. Let's cross multiply. 7 times 100 equals 85 times D. 7 times 100 is 700, and 85 times D is 85 times D. Remember, we need to get D by itself, so I'm going to divide by 85 on both sides. Remember, whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other side. It turns out that D is 8.235. But the question does ask us to round to the nearest whole percent. So, my children ate 8% of the chocolate chip dough balls. Ugh, but doesn't that picture look really good? Here's another one for you to practice. You're going to pause the lesson, figure out the answer, then press play to check. Let's see how you did. A student earned 80% on the final exam with 25 questions. The first question is, how many questions did the student answer correctly? The second question is, how many did the student answer incorrectly? The percent score means the student answered 80% of the questions correctly. Let's fill in what we know. We know that there's 25 questions on this test, and the student earned 80%. We need to figure out of the 25, what is 80%? So I'm going to put a C here for correct. Cross, multiply, C times 100 equals 25 times 80. C times 100 equals 2,000. Remember, we're solving for C, so I need to divide by 100 on both sides. Remember, whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other side. We end up with C equals 20. What exactly does that mean? That means the student answered 20 questions correctly. The second question asks, how many did the student answer incorrectly? What we will do is take the total number of questions minus the number of questions the student got correct. So 25 minus 20 is 5. The student answered 5 incorrectly. Let's talk about Cashback. We see these commercials on TV all the time. Some famous person says, hey, you'll get 2% back or 1% back. But does that really mean anything? I mean, how much really is 1%? Let's figure this one out together. Here's a credit card that has no annual fee, and you even earn cash back. The purchase rate is only 19.99%. Cash advance is 21.99%. There's no annual fee, and you can have additional cards for all of your friends. Wow! You're going to earn 2% cash back on groceries, and then 1% cash back with all other purchases like gas or clothing or pizza, that kind of stuff. Let's say the first month you have your new credit card and you purchase $500 worth of groceries. We're going to take the $500 times the 2%. Remember, we always convert percent to a decimal before we multiply. What do we get? 10 bucks. That's not bad. How much is your interest payment? The interest is 19.99%. So we're going to take the $500 you got in groceries and multiply it by 19.99%. Now remember, we have to convert it to a decimal. What does that give us? $99.95. Gulp. How much will you owe at the end of the month? You have the $500 that you purchased. You owe that, plus your interest. But you get to subtract the 2%. What does that give us? $589.95. Oh my gosh. So after I purchased $500 of groceries, getting $10 cash back, does that really mean anything? Not really. Let's look at the next month. You made no new purchases and paid the minimum $25 payment. How much will you owe after you pay the minimum payment? You're going to take what you owe, $589.95, and subtract $25. That's $564.99. How much cash back will you earn? Well, zero, because you made no new purchases. You don't get any cash back. How much is your interest payment? Well, we're going to take $564.99 times 19.99%. Of course, we changed that to a decimal. That gives us approximately $112.94. That's your interest, just your interest. How much will you owe at the end of the month? Well, you're going to take the $564.99 plus your interest payment, $112.94, for a grand total of $677.93. Yes, that is what you owe for taking out $500 last month in groceries. So the next time you see one of those really cool commercials and they're all about, oh, 2% back or 1% back, you'll know better. You'll be a great consumer because you realize that isn't really much money. A credit card also helps with your credit rating. If you look to the bottom left of your screen to understand your FICO score helps determine your credit worthiness. Everything you wanted to know about your FICO score is found in this booklet. Just type in this link into your browser and read. Now it's time for the self-quiz. Pause the video and solve without peeking. When you're ready, press play to check. Let's see how you did. For number 1, the answer is 65% of the shots were given in the morning. For number 2, there are 13% of the bulbs that need to be replaced. And finally, number 3, the answer is there are approximately 53 pills left in the bottle. If you got these right, great. But for the rest of us, let's look at these. A nurse gives 120 flu shots in one day. If 78 were completed in the morning, what percent were completed? Once again, we need to fill out our formula. The total shots in the morning that were given is 78. The nurse has 120 shots. We need to figure out what percent were given in the morning. So we're going to put F for flu shots. Cross multiply. We need to get F by itself. So hopefully you divided by 120 on both sides. It turns out that F is 65. That means 65%. Number 2 says there are 40 bulbs on this string of lights. 5 needed to be replaced. What percent need to be replaced? Round to the nearest whole bulb. Let's figure out our formula again. The number that needed to be replaced is 5. The total number of bulbs on the string is 40. We're trying to figure out what percent needed to be replaced. So I put R in for percent. We're going to cross multiply. We need to get R by itself, so hopefully you divide it by 40. And that turns out to be 12.5%. But remember, we're rounding to the nearest whole bulb. That's why the answer is 13%. There are 13% of the lights that need to be replaced. Have you ever wondered why there are extra bulbs in your package? Well, the companies have figured out after shipping, there'll be about 5 or 6 that need to be replaced. Instead of replacing the whole string, they put 5 or 6 extra bulbs in your package. That saves on customers returning to the store and wanting their money back. Let's look at the last one, number 3. There are 150 aspirin in a bottle. If 35% have been used, what percent are remaining? Round to the nearest pill. Let's make our formula. We don't know how many were used, that's what we're looking for. But there are 150 in the bottle. We know that 35% were used. We just don't know the exact number of pills. We're going to cross multiply. We need to get U by itself, so we're going to divide by 100. We get U to equal 52.5. The question asks us to round to the nearest pill. So that's why we say there are approximately 53 pills left in the bottle. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did making it. Would you like to pin me to Pinterest? Just follow the instructions. Did you know that I have video guides and worksheets for all of my picrustable lecture series? Yeah, every single video. Make sure you subscribe because you don't want to miss the new videos. I love this stuff. I make them all the time. Do you have a request? Let me know at picrustable@gmail.com or in this YouTube comment box below. I'd like to thank you for watching and hopefully you'll join me again.